Welcome to my fourth video. This time I thought we'd look at a card that gives an example of the Japanese causative, saseru. So the name of this card we've got here. This is Sagimure no Sigarda. Sagimure no Sigarda. So the first kanji here, sagi. This is a heron. Now typically you don't see heron written as kanji like this. It will often just be in katakana as sagi. So heron, this fits the art in the card. We can see here in the background, herons. The design of the weapon that this character has also resembles that of a heron's beak. So, sagi, that's a heron. Mure. Mure is a flock or a herd. So, sagi mure is a flock of herons. Sagi mure no Sigarda. Sigarda, that's the name of the character appearing in the card, Sigarda. So, Sagimure no Sigarda. We could translate that as Sigarda of the heron flock. Okay, moving on to the type line. So we've seen these before. This type line is exactly the same as the type line of the creature in the previous video. So if we just quickly go over the kanji readings, we have Densetsu no creature, Tenshi. So if we remember densetsu, densetsu is a legend or something in folklore, a story. Densetsu no creature, that's a legendary creature, and tenshi is an angel. So, legendary creature. Angel. Now, moving on to the abilities. So first, we have Hiko. We also came across this one last time. This Hiko is the Hiko in Hikoki, which was aeroplane, and Hiko can be translated as flying. We could perhaps give a little bit more detail here. The first kanji in Hiko is in the verb tobu. Now, tobu is a verb to fly. The second part we haven't come across before. This says jugon. So, we've seen the first kanji in this word in some of the cards we've looked at before as jumon, which was a spell. And often this kanji is associated with things like spells or a curse. Now, the second kanji, that's to do with prohibiting something or a ban. For example, you may see something like kingen. Kingen. which is no smoking. So you could perhaps use the way that king is used in that word to develop some intuition of what it's doing inじゅごん. It's spells and prohibit. What this means in Magic the Gathering is hexproof. In more literal terms, that means that spells an opponent controls that targets this creature, Sagimure no Sigarda, are prohibited. It's hexproof. So let's write these two down. We have hiko andじゅごん. Flying. And hexproof. Okay, let's look at the next line. Let's read it through first and add the kanji readings. So, 対戦相手がコントロールしている呪文や能力は、あなたにパーマネントを生贄に捧げさせることができない。対戦相手。対戦相手。対戦相手がコントロールしている呪文。Remember that 呪文 is a spell. 呪文や能力。呪文や能力はあなたにパーマネントを生贄。生贄に捧げさせることができない。So, 対戦相手 is an opponent. Now, we've seen what a jumon is. 能力. 能力 is ability. For example, when it comes to languages, you may have heard of 日本語能力 or 英語能力, which would be Japanese language ability or English language ability. 日本語能力, which would be Japanese language ability. So this is ability. So this first line, 対戦相手がコントロールしている呪文や能力は So we have 対戦相手が So the opponent is the subject here. 対戦相手がコントロールしている呪文や能力 This is spells and abilities 呪文や能力 that your opponent controls 対戦相手がコントロールしている呪文や能力。Now in the second line, あなたにパーマネントを生贄に捧げさせることができない。So here is where the causative form comes in. We have something に and something させる。So に and させる. The thing marked with に is what or who is being caused to do something or made to do something. So あなたに that means you or us, the controller of this creature. Sagimore no Sigarda. So first we can see that this line is to do with causing or making us do something. There's some rule that this card brings into play. So exactly what this is, we'll find out. Anata ni permanent o. So permanent, this is the object. It's marked with the particle o. So permanent is straight from the English, permanent. In Magic the Gathering, creatures you control and other things like that exist on the battlefield, they're called permanents. You can just imagine them as things that we control. Anata ni permanent o ikenie. Ikenie is a sacrifice. Often in Magic the Gathering cards, will be a sort of set phrase. It will be ikenie ni sasageru, or some form of that, like what we have here. So ikenie, if we remember, that's a sacrifice. Ikenie ni sasagesaseru. So this sasagesaseru, the dictionary form is sasageru. Now, sasageru has a fair few different meanings that depend on the context. One of which is to hold or display something above your head. That's not really the meaning it has here. Here it's more to do with giving something away. Other translations could be to devote to, or offer, dedicate. So we see offer sort of works here. Now we don't have the dictionary form here, we have the causative form, which means we've dropped the ru ending and instead have saseru. So instead of to offer or to dedicate, to make offer, we can take ikenie ni sasageru as to sacrifice as one set phrase, but we still have to deal with this causative part on the end. So ikenie ni sasagesaseru is to be made to sacrifice. So who's being made to sacrifice? That's marked by the ni. That's us. And who's making us do this? That's spells or abilities that our opponents control. Now, that's not everything. We have this small bit on the end which changes things quite a lot. We have ikenie ni sasagesaseru koto ga dekinai. Koto ga dekinai. Now, dekiru is the potential form of the verb suru, to do. So, dekiru is be able to do. Dekinai is not able to do. So, if we see a verb followed by koto ga dekinai, it's not able to be doing that thing, where that thing is making us sacrifice permanents that we control. So if we put the translation for number 2, we would say, Anata ni permanent wo ikenie ni sasagesaseru koto ga dekinai. So cannot. This would be the koto ga dekinai part. Cannot make you sacrifice something. Okay, so the first line, spells and abilities your opponents control. 2. Cannot make you sacrifice something. Let's try and wrap that up into something not quite so literal. Let's say, spells and abilities your opponents control cannot make you sacrifice permanence. Right, let's reveal the English and see how we did in each section. So, starting with the name, we had Sagimure no Sigarda, and we translated that as Sigarda of the Heron flock. So the original English is Sigarda, host of herons. Now in English, a host can mean a large number or a multitude. So in this case, we have a host of herons is a large number of herons. Now this would be corresponding directly to the Japanese Sagimure. The English Sigarda, host of herons, gives the feeling that Sigarda refers to the host. So this creature is the leader or the commander of this large group of herons, but also that they are part of the host. They are just a single entity within it. So in the Japanese, we have Sagimure no Sigarda, which contains the possessive particle, and that would more closely correspond with the latter translation in the English, that they are part of this larger thing, rather than that they are the leader of it. So overall, the meanings are similar, but I think the English is a bit more ambiguous and there's room for interpretation there. Okay, now on to the types. Densetsu no creature, Tenshi, which is a legendary creature, angel. Then we had Hiko and Jugon. Hiko was flying, and Jugon was hexproof. Next part. Spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause you to sacrifice permanence. Spells and abilities your opponents control cannot make you sacrifice permanence. Okay, that's great. That's actually really close. We have cannot make. The official English has cannot cause you. The meaning exactly the same, really. Again, this card has a sort of flavor text on the bottom. It says, Oi naru kenshin wa oi naru hoshou o motorasu. And the English was, great devotion yields great reward. That brings us to the end of this video. This was Sigarda, host of herons, Sagimure no Sigarda. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm going to include the vocabulary in the video description. So check that out if you're interested. Thanks for watching.